lot of requests today about past lives. Yeah, so I figured I would talk a little bit about past lives tonight, how you access your past lives. There's a few different ways you can do it. First, you have to become a hypnotist if you want to do it the way that I do it as a regressionist, right? You become a hypnotist certified, and then you become a regressionist certified. The other ways you can do it, so I'm going to tell you all about this stuff and how it works and how you can do it. The first way, it's a more formal, best way to do it is to do the regressions. You hypnotize someone, you take them down into regression, and I'll explain that in just a little while. So that's the main way. That's my favorite way. That is the most, if you want really to get in there and dive deep with it and get all the details and stuff and all of the stuff that was going on in that past life that's affecting you now and all the people and stuff, that's the way to do it. The second way to do it, you can get a reading from someone that specializes in it. There are some people that do read past lives for other people. I don't do that at all. The only thing that I do with past lives other than regression work is I actually explore your birth chart. So your birth chart, your astrology chart, has the patterns, your archetypes, and all of that within it of your past lives and your soul purpose for coming in this lifetime. So astrologically, I can look at your birth chart and say, okay, in your past lives, it looks like you had this going on archetypally. So maybe, it could be something like you were burned at the stake, or, and so that's a big issue in this life for you is like coming out of that shell from being, pretty much a martyr. It could be that you were a warrior. It could be that and the really cool thing about this is, back when I first learned about the astrology behind this was about 2000, it was around 2012-ish. It was a few years ago. I met Kaipacha, my friend, and he is my mentor in astrology now. He's an evolutionary astrologer, and he specializes in the evolutionary stuff, so that's the past lives and soul purpose. And I went to his workshop in Cocoa, and that's where I met him after I used to watch his YouTube videos. And he looked at our astrology charts, and he would say, oh, this was your past life stuff that you have going on. Funny thing is, I already knew my past lives, right? Because as a regressionist, you have to experience all of that, a bunch of it, right? So I'd already experienced quite a bit of it and knew a lot about my past lives and the patterns that I'd went through and why I'm here now. Well, he looked at my birth chart for just a minute, and he goes, oh, okay, so this is your stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, you just got that from looking at my astrology chart. That's amazing, because you're perfectly right. The funny thing is like a bunch of my past lives, my pattern has always been that I was a warrior. I was a male warrior. And the last life that I came in, though, the very last life before this one, I was a female. I switched. And I was a young, small female, had a child. I died at around 23 years old. So it was a very short life. And it was very different from the other ones. It was like the big switch happened. So he saw all of that. He says, oh, your pattern is you were a warrior and you were always a lone male. And then in, a recent, either, this time or around the last couple of lifetimes, you have switched to a female. And now you're working on the other side. Instead of being a loner and a warrior and, being this war person, now you're learning partnership and relationship and healing and merging with other people, which was exactly the opposite of what you used to do, right? So he said all of this, and I already knew all of this. So that really amazed me, because as a regressionist, I believe very strongly in reincarnation, but I didn't know you could see this in the astrology chart. So now I do readings like that. I do astrological readings. That takes a lot of time because, well, first of all, you have to pull the chart, and then you have to study the chart, and then you put it all together, and then you do the reading with someone. So it takes a few hours, right? However, if you get a regression, a past life regression under hypnosis, that's a lot quicker. It takes about an hour and a half altogether. And I take you through 3 past lives. That's what I do. I take you through 3 past lives. I like to take you through 3. Because I feel like you'll get the patterns and that you'll get the most out of it. Because what happens is your soul takes you back to the one that's the most immediate and the strongest influence on this life. The one that's most connected to this life and the one that's most affecting you in this life. Right? So that's the first one. And then, I'll take you, because then you go deeper. Right? And I'll explain that in a minute. But you go deeper, and so then I take you to the second one that's also affecting you, and then the third one. Yeah, a lot of people have been switching. We're going from a patriarchy to a matriarchy. Right now, with the Age of Aquarius, we're in a big switch, and there's a lot of people switching. And so a lot of people that were, males before are now females. So that's why, see a lot of the females coming out and being the more, like, aggressive leader, that kind of stuff, is because we were males. And a lot of the males now were females in a lot of their past lives. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the things that you're seeing with gender and everything right now. There's a lot of switching going on with the souls. So that's a big deal in the Age of Aquarius, because really we're not males or females, right? But when we come into this life, we play that role. And so we get used to that role, and it becomes very ingrained within our consciousness, our spirit. And so, I always felt more like a male. When I was growing up, I was always a tomboy. And I have this very feminine look, but growing up, I was a martial artist. I began teaching martial arts at 11 years old. I was on the USA team. I loved to fight. I used to get in fights in school. I was very aggressive. And I became a coach, as a preteen. I was a coach for martial arts. I was just I was a skateboarder. I would do half pipes. I was like, I was very tomboyish, even though I have a feminine look, which is something that it was on purpose when I came into this life. It was, you're going to be this little female, you're going to have to play that role, the exact opposite, because I was always a very big male. Let me explain to you a little bit about actually doing regression work. Okay, so if you guys want an astrology reading from me, or you want a past life regression where I actually hypnotize you online, I'm one of the first and few that actually do it through the internet, and it works very well, just as if you were here with me, because as we have this video technology and audio technology is all you need. You plug it in, right? You put on the headphones and you lay down on the couch or your bed, and I hypnotize you and I walk you right through it. Now, a lot of people don't understand hypnosis. Hypnosis is not a sleep state. Okay, there's different levels, and I have some videos on this, you guys, if you ever want to look up my stuff on regressions and reincarnation and stuff. I do have other videos where I actually talk about this stuff, but so what happens when I hypnotize you, okay, is it's like meditation work, but it's faster, quicker, and highly effective, especially if you're not very good at meditation work, because we can drop you down into those, slower brainwave states very quickly, right? So you start with your consciousness, you're in full beta consciousness, right? And then your brainwaves start slowing down. We slow your brainwaves down, we slow your brainwaves down, we slow your brainwaves down. And we walk you through this. If you've ever used like a sleep hypnosis thing on YouTube or something, you know what I'm talking about, where it just drops you right down and his brainwaves slow down. And once we get you down into a point where they're very, very slow, we confuse your mind. Okay, so we start using confusion techniques and stuff. And those confusion techniques get the consciousness out of the way. And so your unconscious is like your computer program underneath everything else. And so that unconscious will then kind of come up, and so that can kind of take over and show you things that it has within it. The unconscious stores everything. Once we access and we unlock the unconscious, and the consciousness is relaxed and out of the way, now we can start deepening you, and we get you to the point where if you're ever falling asleep at night and you're starting to dream, but you're still awake, and you're having these visions, that's kind of the hypnotic state we get you into for regression work. What happens when your brainwaves slow down like that is your pineal gland is activated. And when the pineal gland is activated, it releases melatonin, right? And melatonin gives you visions. So with past life regression work, you really want somebody to lead you through it. I don't recommend doing it on your own. Now, you can go to a group. I just got one of those typical questions. Hang on. So, when you go to a group and they do past life regression on you, so they have these in Orlando a lot. I've done a few of them myself. I've led groups, quite a bit where people want to experience a past life, but they don't want to, pay the $150 or whatever to sit down for a couple hours with a hypnotist. Instead, they want to go to this group thing, either do it for free or pay $10 or something. And you can access some of your past life stuff through that. It's not going to be as deep and as detailed as if you actually sat down with me or with another hypnotist. That's really good. You have to make sure you get somebody really good. You don't want somebody, I've been to a lot of hypnotists because, I'm in the community and stuff, and I'll tell you, there's some out there that just don't know what they're doing. They're impatient, and if a hypnotist is ever impatient, they won't get crap with you. It's just crap. Anyways, so when you go to the group settings, they're going to help you access certain things because they're dropping your brain waves down, but it's not going to be usually as low as if you're with them, and they can't work with you personally, so they can't say, oh, and start talking to that other personality from the past life and like getting them into answering like, who is this person in this life, and why, are you back in this past life? What does this have to do with this? You can start dialoguing, right, with the person, and then it's all of a sudden you're there. You are there when you get there. I remember my first past life regression in like 2004-ish. I don't remember the year exactly, but Ron hypnotized me, Dr. DeVosto, and I went to it because I was just interested. It was kind of for fun for me. It was like, and that's why a lot of people do it. They're like, oh yeah, that would be cool. I wonder if this is real, and I was already in the community. I was already doing tarot, all that stuff. And I was like, this seems cool. I'm going to go check it out. And when I called him, I remember he was like, well, why do you want to do this? And I'm like, because, it'd be cool. It's interesting, And he goes, well, why do you really want to do this? And so I ended up going, and it was the most intense experience of my life. And I did not expect that. I expected it to be more of like an interesting, fun thing. So with my first experience, he hypnotized me, and he took me through a couple of lives, 2 lives, and it was very hard because what happens is it's like you're that person again. You become that person again. You feel. That's the thing, is you feel it. You feel it. It's not just like something in your head that you're thinking about. You're actually there, and you go through the death experience. And when you go through the death experience, it becomes very intense, because usually that's one of the main things we hold on to in this life is death. It's very traumatizing to die. It's a traumatic experience. And especially if we have other people around us that are dying or killing us or whatever, it's usually extremely traumatic. And so that's the things that we will hold on to and we will re-experience. And I remember going through that one death experience. And I remember, and sometimes we record them if you want us to, and I have my recording, and I can hear myself choking, and I started crying because, and most people do, I've hardly had any that didn't cry, so I always have tissues, or you need to have tissues if you're on the internet with me, because it is a very intense experience, and you go through the death, and you go through the things that you've lost, and the people you've hurt, and the people that have hurt you. And I'll never forget, dying and feeling guilty in my one death experience. And that really hung on to me, because some of the people that I felt it was my fault that they were dying. Because I was in some type of army, and I was leading a small group into a forest or somewhere. And I felt really guilty because I was getting killed, and I felt like it was my fault because I led them in there. And then they tried to save me, and they were all murdered as well. And so that guilt, and that's why you go into a past life, is because you're still hanging on to something. You're still hanging on to something, and you still have like debts with other people and things like that. And so some of those people that were there are in my life now. They were in my life this time, and I saw their eyes. And when you see their eyes, you know who they are, because you can see the soul, and you just know who they are. And it's a very powerful, very intense experience. I remember one experience that I had where I regressed someone. I'll never forget this one because she's a very close friend of mine, and she was going through a very hard time with her husband, and she wanted to leave her husband, but she felt like she couldn't. There was just something that was keeping her there, and this was going on for a long time. And finally I hypnotized her and I regressed her, and she went right back to a time when she knew him and she was with him in another life. And in that life, he murdered her. And once I took her through that experience, what happens is, it's like you cut the ties karmically, right? So she was able to cut the ties when that happened. When she re-experienced that, she went, oh my God. And she felt very different about him. And so about 3 hours later, I was at home and I get a phone call from her, and she goes, I left my husband and I feel absolutely fine now. And the only problem is I don't know where to go. So she came and stayed with me for a while, and she's a very happy person now, and she was very, very unhappy at the time. So I've seen this happen with a lot of people where it changed their lives, and it changed my life, because before that, I didn't necessarily believe in past lives. I was like, oh, it's cool, it's interesting, maybe, right? But then once you experience it, you're like, no, I completely believe it. I completely believe it, because it's not just a thought, it's an actual reality within you that's already there. Past life regressions are extremely intense, so if you are going to get one, make sure you take like a day for yourself. You don't want to get a regression and then have to go to work or do something, right? You want to be able to relax, because it is a very emotional and intense experience. Now, if you'd rather just hear about a little bit about your past lives, not on that deep level, but just to understand a little bit about the archetypes you've played, like, okay, you were a warrior like I was, right? Or you were a male or a female, things like that, we can tell you looking at the astrology chart. And also, I know Stina, my friend Stina, she also does some past life stuff, and I think that's with the tarot cards, and she's very good. She's very psychic. So you can also get a psychic reading if you just want to get a psychic reading for it. I don't do psychic readings for past lives. I regress people. That's my way. I love it. Astrology, I'll give you a little bit on it when I read your chart. I don't completely focus on it like a psychic would. I just have it in there as part of your reading. So it's an hour reading. So, yeah, what questions do you guys have about regressions or reincarnation that I can answer for you? Because you guys, are interested, obviously. So what would you like to know? Somebody was asking about getting stuck, and I get that every once in a while. People get scared of hypnosis, and they're like, oh my God, what if I get stuck? There's nothing to get stuck in but your own head, it's just, all you're doing is relaxing your brainwaves like you're going to sleep, and you're accessing the unconscious. So you don't get stuck or anything. There's no stuck. There's no stuck in hypnosis. It's just meditation. It's just like you're falling asleep at night. Do you get stuck at night when you go to sleep? No. Is it possible that hypnosis won't work on you? All right, so hypnosis is a meditative process. All it is relaxing the conscious. If you've ever ridden your bike or driven a car somewhere and you got there and you go, oh, how did I get here? I don't remember the drive. That's because your unconscious was operating for you and your consciousness relaxed and you were under a hypnotic state. So everybody can be hypnotized. The only people that can't be hypnotized are people that have an actual very serious mental problem, and I'm not being mean. I'm very serious about this. A very serious mental problem in regards to focus. So if you can't focus, you can't focus at all, like very serious like brain issues where you can't focus, that's when you can't be hypnotized. Or if you have a very, very low IQ, you can't be hypnotized, typically. Higher the IQ, From my understanding, the easier you are to hypnotize. In fact, I've had a lot of people that were very intelligent say, I don't think I could be hypnotized, I think too much and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, really? And, I'll be at work at, the university or something, and other teachers have said this to me, and I'll even say, okay, and I hypnotize them. And they're very easy, very easy. So, not true. If you're a thinker, you can be hypnotized very easily. If you can focus and concentrate on something, read a book, you can watch a television show, you can drive a car, ride a bicycle, and you can be hypnotized. Can you control people under hypnosis? That is debatable because it's the power of suggestion, right? You're programmed. You guys are programmed. We're all programmed based on what our parents said to us over and over again when we were growing up, based on the television and the audio that we hear over and over again. It programs us, right? And so that's that self-talk is a program. It keeps running and running and running, right? So if somebody reprograms you, hypnosis will work for a period of time. So that's why if you want to quit smoking, for instance, and you go to a hypnotist will reprogram your unconscious. However, they can't usually do it in one session because this is a program. They have to reprogram what's already programmed. And the program is telling you cigarettes are good. The program is telling you you want a cigarette. The programs are telling you good things about the cigarettes. So they have to reprogram your unconscious computer back there that it's not good. And it takes time to reprogram. And it's the power of suggestion. It's not like they're forcing you, right? But the program, that's how we work. It works like that. And you have to want it. So if somebody doesn't want to quit smoking, hypnosis really won't work at all. They have to really want to quit smoking. So it's really not as much of a control mechanism as people think. However, it is dependent on how suggestible you are. If you're a super suggestible person, you're going to be easier to suggest things to. Does a hypnotist help with mental health issues? Yes. A hypnotist can help with certain mental health issues because, well, especially spiritual hypnosis, because what you're doing is you're accessing the unconscious, the spiritual, the spirit, really. The soul. You're accessing back beyond just your conscious ego state. And you're saying, all right, what are the problems? What can we do to make those problems better? Why are we still holding on to these problems? Why do we have these problems? And you actually become your own counselor. And that's why they always say in counseling, I went through, I guess some of you guys know I have master's degrees in communication and partial master's degrees in mental health and also marriage counseling. And they always say, when you work with someone as a counselor, you don't really need to say much. You ask them questions and you let them lead themselves to the answers. Hypnosis is way better because with hypnosis, you get that conscious state out of the way and the unconscious gives the answers, which is the spirit body. The spirit comes up and gives the answers, which is where the real answers are, the best answers are. And that's why when you meditate, you get the most intuitive, best answers. When I pull tarot cards, I get the most intuitive, best answers because that's coming from spirit. It's coming from underneath all of the junk and up here that's trying to figure everything out. That just makes everything worse. So I'm not big into regular counseling so much unless, you need some reconditioning because maybe you're an alcoholic or you have bad communication skills, things like that. Counseling's good for. But when it comes to more serious issues and patterns that you have, like not letting go of somebody that's abusing you or something like that, hypnosis is a great way to go for it. Because your spirit will help you to unlock things and figure out why you're doing them. And once it really becomes clear to you, way more clear than if somebody just tells you, it becomes really a knowing within you. You're able to let go of things so much easier and you're able to move on and to make better decisions coming from you and your heart. All right, guys. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful. And I would love to hear from all of you. If you have questions, if you want to become a regressionist, just message me on Facebook, Brandy Joy TV. Bye for now, everyone.